Hey, Patrick Arlia here, co-founder and developer advocate at Repliers. In this video, we're going to explore how you can use Repliers to build map-based clusters. We're going to show you an example of a very popular internet portal that uses clusters, as well as one of our subscriber portals that uses clusters. We're going to dive into a quick Postman demonstration to show you how easy it is to generate clusters for use on maps in your websites and apps. And we're going to talk a little bit about why you would want to use clusters. So let's start with why. The reason we use clusters is because there's a lot of listing information and you do not want to display all that listing information on the map because the map would be too cluttered. So we use clusters to indicate how many listings you can expect to find in a certain area. And as the user clicks on clusters, the zoom level changes. And then at some point, if you want, you could actually disable clusters and show the individual listings. So what it does is it just speeds up the map and it reduces bunching at higher zoom levels, makes it a lot easier for the user to digest more information. So that's the very popular Compass portal. Let's switch over to Valley Real Estate, one of our subscribers. You can see that they've done a good job of implementing clusters. As the user zooms in and out, clusters change. What you don't want to do is grab all the listings and then cluster them on the front end. That's slow. So what we have is an API solution, and it's very easy to use. So the first thing you want to do when you're clustering is you want to set listings as equal to false. So when you set listings as equal to false, we don't provide you with any listings. Okay, and that just makes the payload smaller and increases the response time. And then you set clusters equal to true. So if we send this request, we'll see that we get now an array of clusters. Okay, so we see we have multiple clusters. Each cluster is an item in the array. Each cluster has a count. It has a location. We provide the bottom right and top left bounds, as well as a GeoJSON representation of the area that cluster covers. So if we look back at the map, the number here, 209, would be the count. The location, this is the latitude, longitude where we place the cluster on the map. Okay, so we know where to place it. Now, we can't see the boundary. Some users will actually show the boundary when you hover over the cluster. They'll kind of show like the square boundary around it. But if you were to click on a cluster, you can use that boundary. So for example, if a user clicked on this specific cluster and you wanted to zoom in and just show listings within that cluster, you would just very simply add that cluster's GeoJSON to the map param, and then we would reduce the scope of the next set of clusters to within that map boundary. Okay, so when you set cluster to true, you could also set cluster precision. Okay, so the higher the precision, the more clusters. The lower the precision, the less cluster. So you can see here we have one very large cluster. Okay, that's 60,000 listings in it. Now, if we set the cluster precision to 20, you see that our first cluster, the largest one, only has 195 listings in it. So as your user zooms in and out, you will want to use less cluster precision. Okay, and as they zoom in, you'll want to use more cluster precision so that you're showing them more specific clusters. Now, you'll notice that in some situations, a cluster only has one listing. So when you get close enough to the ground, you may start seeing clusters that only have one listing in them. You can see it's represented by count is equal to 1. And what we do in those situations is we return a little bit of listing data. So if, like Valerie, you want to show perhaps the type of listing that it is and the price, you can do that without having to go and make any additional API requests. We also provide the MLS number so that if it's clicked on, you can show additional details or go to an MLS specific page. So there you go, a really easy solution for displaying clusters on a map using the Repliers APIs. Thanks for listening and happy coding, everyone.